Parents who have disowned or genuinely stopped loving your child, what happened? I have disowned my oldest son. He abused my daughter, has been diagnosed as a sociopath, and we have restraining orders against him. It isn't fun, and I never thought I would be that parent. Dated a girl for a long time who had been abused by her brother for years growing up. Her parents tried the whole, we need to move on. Forgive him. He's our son. It ducked her sheet up having to see him at holidays. She was cutting, drinking herself to sleep. Almost destroyed a very beautiful and amazing person. It got better, when he went to federal prison for making and distributing child pornography and sex with so many underage girls. TL, doctor, you absolutely made the right choice. Sorry you had to make it. My biological father divorced my mum and also his 3 kids. Basically bouncing out of our lives and making it clear he wanted next to nothing to do with any of us when he left. Man, years later, at my older sister's funeral, that he had the ducking gall to attend. I asked him why he did that. He said, I thought it would be easier for everyone. He actually meant it was easier for him to run home to his wealthy family and enjoy a second adolescence while my single mother worked 2 jobs to feed 3 kids under 10 with 0 child support from him. I have been legally disowned by my father. When I was 11, my mum was diagnosed with terminal cancer. This was her 2nd diagnosis in around 4 years. Obviously she recovered the first time after intense surgery and a lot of chemo, and he did not want to look after her like he did before. He also had a new GF and her family to look after apparently, and he had no issues leaving us. When my mum passed away when I was 14, my brother, grandmother, him and I met up to discuss who I was going to live with. The plan was my brother and his family. Father was never considered, and he showed up and declared that he was in the process of going to court to legally emancipate himself from me. He went out of his way to legally declare that I was no longer his child. Just so that my brother, 22 with a wife and 2 young children already struggling on 1 paycheck, couldn't seek child support. Needless to say, it stung, coming only days after my mother's funeral. A little different. I was disowned, but I deserved it. I was an addict and a mess for a long time. My mum couldn't keep bailing me out of trouble and watch me self-destruct anymore. I wasn't living at home. She came to see me one last time to tell me she was done. Not to contact her. She would no longer have anything to do with me. She was in pieces. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for her. But it was the best thing she ever did for me. Once she cut me off, my rock bottom came hard and fast. After a little while of living on the streets and my addiction consuming me, I made my way to a detox center. Got a few days clean under my belt and never looked back. That was almost 15 years ago. After I was clean a little while, I contacted my mum. And little by little we built a relationship again. And now we're really close. I am forever grateful to my mum for letting me fall and letting me back into her life. As Jehovah's Witnesses, my parents disowned my siblings and I several times since I was in my late teens. One of the JW rules is that you do not associate with others who know the truth but refuse to follow it. Including family, and parents are encouraged to disown any children who have left the religion. The first time was when I was 19. It upset me. I was heartbroken, and eventually they changed their minds only to do it again a couple years later, and so on until I stopped caring and no longer attempt to be a part of their lives at all. I disowned a family member. Not a child though. We were very close. Until he ended up being caught in a pedo sting. And I turned my back and haven't looked back. I have a sister the age of the girl he was supposed to meet. I can't associate with scum like that. FYI. According to my sister, nothing was ever done to her. Not a parent. But my parents stopped loving me the moment I was disfellowshipped as a Jehovah's Witness. And I was promptly kicked out. I knew nothing of how to live on my own at the time. But I had a decent job and survived. My brother stopped associating with them 2 years later and lives with me. And they since moved away, 1,500 miles away to be exact. It's easier to tell people I am orphaned or that I do not have parents. 'Cause it's hard to explain how they would stop loving or want to associate with their own son over some stupid cult rules. I hope my mum answers this one. My parents disowned my oldest sister. She always struggled growing up more than us. She became a teen mum with a bad older dude. Partied a lot, etc. But my parents helped her a lot. They do okay for themselves. But had a no co-signing rule for all 6 of my siblings and I. Still, they co-signed for her house so she could get a head start. She didn't pay the mortgage for almost 3 years before my mum got served in front of all the other nurses at her work. My parents worked tirelessly to try to work out deals where my sister and her family kept the house and got some leniency. But to no avail, because my sister never showed up for court dates. During this time, she paid $12,000 for IVF and got pregnant with her 5th kid. When my mum demanded some of the money back, She accused my dad and my brother of beating her sons when my parents took them to Disney World. He didn't, and said she'd file a police report if he asked for money again. They kept asking. 'Cause it wasn't true. She awkwardly joined us for Christmas. And punched my brother in the face during the meal for humiliating her oldest son by asking him if he wanted to work at my brother's company for good pay. Her oldest son is in and out of jail. And my brother was trying to help him after his release. But her son said he didn't want a job and got mad. She then called the cops and told them the same brother had illegal gums in his truck. And they came on Christmas night and searched his truck, no gums found. Needless to say, she is not welcome anywhere near any of us, and my mum still cries about it. But refuses to talk to her again. Not my story. But in a similar thread to this one, asking parents about when they realized they raised a monster, someone linked to this post. TL, doctor of that post, the son was a dipshit as a teen but took it way further by eventually raping his own mother, who committed suicide a year after. I wouldn't say I've disowned or stopped loving my son. But it's real tough to find love for him. He's almost 14 next month, and he's currently out of our home at a treatment facility. He's averaged 2 arrests a year for the last 2 years. And he's attacked my wife several times. Our daughters several times. And the neighborhood kids several times. He's run away from school. Run away from home. And tried to push me off the roof of our house after threatening to jump off and hurt himself. We have become that family in our town where the police are called to our home on a semi-regular basis. He's been getting more violent as he gets older, not to mention bigger and stronger, and I honestly don't see an end in sight. The key fact I'm leaving out is that he's been diagnosed as high-functioning autistic and is also bipolar. That's like putting walls around a tornado and expecting it to stay inside the walls. A lot of what has occurred he had little control over because of the way his mind is, where he's constantly at war with himself. Structure versus chaos. And my wife and I have tried desperately to give him the best life we can while keeping ourselves and our daughters safe. I'm tired, it's been 8.5 years we've been going through this with him, and I've been ready to throw in the towel on him for a while. But my wife refuses to let him go. So we wake up every morning trying to give him the best life for him and our girls. Since it seems to have widened a bit. A family torn apart, based on an aunt and her niece. Aunt starts signs of dementia at a relatively young age. Is moved into an assisted living home. Niece, who bounces around jobs, gets hikes to go visit her about once a week. Take her out to the mall or a walk in the park. Whatever. Paid handsomely. We get an alert that aunt has a check bounce from her account that should have $5,000 in it. Niece has drained the account. Proven beyond a doubt. With receipts. Niece would take aunt to aunt's bank machine every Friday and withdraw $200. And fill her car with gas aunt can't drive. And charge us hours when she clearly didn't spend hours with aunt. Charged us claiming she took aunt to appointments. There was no appointment. We can actually call the doctor, FYI. The family rift? For some bizarre reason niece's family took her side. I've disowned one of my siblings, still have 5 other siblings. My sister is just a horrible person. She's the youngest of the 7. And she's been rotten since she was a teenager. She is much younger than the rest of us. So while the other 6 grew up together, she was almost like an only child. She treats everybody in her life like they're here to serve her needs. Some of the things she's put our mother through are truly horrible. I wouldn't give a shit if she disappeared forever. I am not sure if this counts. I didn't disown him, but I went through a dissociative episode after some really intense trauma. And I honestly couldn't feel any attachment and parental love that I had for my son. I tried not to show it, and behave as normally as possible because he was a child at the time and couldn't possibly understand what I was going through. It was pretty disturbing to not be able to feel any sense of bond with him. I eventually got better, but I definitely did not feel what I or most people would call love for him. # not me. But # friend wanted to move out and be independent. Which was appropriate, because she was 22. Her parents wanted to keep her under their thumb, and told her she couldn't move out. A huge argument ensued. She grabbed all her stuff and left, and was promptly disowned by both parents. Makes sense, right? My mother and her sister were both adopted into a great family. Recently, my grandfather fell ill and we were told to prepare to say goodbye. So the family gathered. My grandmother has had a hard time with her memory since she had a brain hemorrhage. But she welcomed my aunt into her home during this tough time. Whilst my grandfather was in his final week, Wendy, aunt, took my grandmother's ATM card and proceeded to spend well over $1,000 on herself and get herself a motel room. She ALSP attempted to steal their car. When my uncles found out, she basically disappeared into the wind. After my grandfather passed and his funeral was all sorted, my grandmother went to an attorney to write Wendy out of any inheritance she would get from their estate when she passes. She didn't press any formal charges. Because the whole process would have been lengthy and more painful for her. She didn't need the extra stress. I'm pretty sure one of my uncles also threatened Wendy to make sure she stayed away from my grandmother from now on too. My father said my mother's issue was she had too many children and it gave her some kind of brain fever. Much like a dog that loses its mind after having too many puppies. My mother said my father felt trapped by me. He was planning to leave when it was just my two older brother, and then my mother got pregnant with me and he felt obligated to stay. Now that I'm an adult with two kids myself, I think I realized that both of my parents are just extremely mentally ill and incapable of loving anyone, including themselves. My family disowned me because I disowned my mother. I was sexually groomed and abused, tortured by her husband for years, and when I finally told her, she not only didn't believe me, but stayed married to him for 7 years. I had to move out at 16 to get away from how I was being treated. Then when I finally began speaking to others, she started to cover her as with her social circle by telling them that I seduced her husband. I cut her off for years, and didn't ever want to see her again, but my family bullied me to just get over it and have a relationship with my mother, and that I was hurting her. Even my sister, who knew what happened, knew I stayed for so long to protect her, fell into a trap of my mother whining to everyone around her and painting me as a liar. About 4 years ago she was very suddenly diagnosed with advanced cancer and didn't have much time. I was moving out of my home state and everyone told me I needed to see her before I left. That I needed to be there. But I didn't want to. In the end everyone turned their back on me. They were so mad I wouldn't just forget my trauma just to say goodbye to someone I hadn't loved for a long time. And rightly so. Edit, I'm getting a lot of replies, so I just want to say thank you and send you all virtual hugs. I'm okay now. I'm grown up, and though I was set back in a lot of ways life-wise, I came out on top for the best. Anyone who is also experiencing this, you aren't alone. And if you need to talk, I'm here. Okay, so far everyone is disowning their parents. But no parents disowning, no longer loving their children. Interesting. Because it's a younger demographic, or do parents not want to talk about it? Not the disowned child. But my older brother is. He has been a petty crook as long as I could remember. Into hard drugs since his pre-teens. And pretty much a full-blown sociopath. He treated every girl in his life like meat. I remember him as a teenager calling his girlfriend a slutter, and because she didn't want to blow him. When he knocked some chick up years later. He had a daughter, and one of the first things out of his mouth in the hospital after her birth was, "She's gonna grow up to be a who or like her mum." Let's just say that child is better off not having him as a father figure. She's been adopted since then and is living a happy childhood last time I checked. He treated my parents like trash. He would be in and out of jail and they would take him in whenever he was out. Then he'd find a job, lose it, and go back to jail. Rinse and repeat. He would get in physical fights with my mum, dad, me. He'd kick our dogs, cats, etc. We'd have to get new drywall to replace the holes he punched through those walls. He'd have freakouts and smash things all around the house. Living with him was a nightmare. The last straw was him walking out on his kid and her mother. And starting a gang fight at our house over a drug deal gone wrong. Things got really violent and I'm pretty sure weapons were involved. He left the house, and on that very same night, he came back because he needed a place to stay. When my dad said no, he started fighting my dad. I stepped in at that point and almost beat the hell out of him. No one ducks with my dad. No one. It ended with my dad having to hold me down to stop me from killing him. And my brother walking away down the street yelling obscenities. Haven't seen him since. This was 6 years ago. At this point, he's either in jail or dead. I may have every reason in the world to hate him for everything he's done. But I don't. He's a tortured soul who has let his demons get the absolute best of him. Plain and simple. I just hope that he finds some kind of peace. Even if it takes death for him to do so. Bill, if you're reading this, you're my brother and I still love you. And I hope you're okay. Wherever you are.